in on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. I am Tegan Bartos, founder of Jolt Your Career, which you probably already know if you're watching. And today I have a very special guest joining me. If you caught my post earlier, I did a little teaser intro and kind of got a little vulnerable and shared that when this lovely lady came into my life, I was at a very difficult time in my life, balancing being a newfound mother and wife and being a career-focused, ambitious young professional. And she was just so much fun and said something like, it gets easier. And peace flooded over me. And on a daily basis, I work with people who don't feel valued in their existing organizations or positions. And a lot of times that's really what it comes down to is when you are at work, you want to feel valued and you want to live into your values. And this special lady just happens to know a thing or two about that. So I am going to bring on my very special guest so she can introduce herself and share a little bit about what values means to her and how to lead through your values. So if you are tuning in, go ahead and drop in the comments where you are tuning from. And welcome our special guest. Good morning, Cheryl. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Tegan, from, I guess, rainy but warm Miami, Florida.
Hey, so nice of you to take some time out of your day and visiting a very special person to join us today. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me this morning. So by way of introduction, I'm Cheryl Harris. I lead sourcing and procurement, i.e. supply chain at Allstate. And that includes our business diversity and responsible procurement practices. Our team manages about $16 billion in spend.
Woo!
A lot of money. And we work to deliver value each and every day to our stakeholders, which includes, of course, people inside the organization, our diverse suppliers, the communities where we work and live, and of course, our consumers, our policyholders. So tuning in from Florida today because I'm visiting my son, who's a junior at the University of Miami.
Heyo. Awesome. So you know this now. So for those of you who are tuning in, I got LinkedIn Live about a month ago and I'm very active in my community when it comes to volunteering with women, domestic abuse shelters. I just did a fundraiser for Dress for Success, active in various church groups in our community and things of that nature. And I don't work with a lot of men traditionally in my business, but throughout the pandemic, they're coming at me from every angle and just saying, I feel off in the workplace. I don't feel like I can be myself. I don't feel like I'm taken seriously or this or that. And so many different avenues to what women have to deal with in the workplace, and men, of course. And I thought, who better than to bring someone who touched my husband and myself in such a special way than you? And so I'm very excited to hear what you have to share with us today. And so you're getting your Ph.D. in value-driven leadership.
Yes.
And from being a mentor of my husband's, lead with values and mentor with values and sponsorship with values. And so I'm really excited to hear what you have to say about value-driven leadership. So I'm not even going to ask you a question. I'm just going to say the floor is yours. What do you want to share?
Yeah, it's interesting. Let me give people a sense of how I actually got here on this LinkedIn Live event today, because the Lord works in mysterious ways. And never did I expect 4 to 6 weeks ago that I would be in this audience. So I had been out of town, got home, and there was a package waiting for me. And because I wasn't familiar with Tegan's last name, I looked at the return envelope and I was like, what did I buy? Right? Because I'm always buying something, and my husband gets, a little teed that there's always a package or more every day coming to the house, right? So I get this package, I open it up, and it's a sweatshirt, and it's a handwritten note saying, "You don't know how you touched my life, but after meeting you, I launched my business." And I literally started to cry because I had no idea. Um, so when Tegan makes reference to how we met, she actually, I know her husband. He supported me and my needs around executive recruiting at Allstate. And he would always talk about his wife and their son. And so I said, okay, I got to meet these fantastic people. And so they came over to my house. And I fell in love with Tegan and again, their wonderful son, who now, of course, is much older. Yeah, but it gets easier. I keep telling you that. And so, you know, when we sat down and talked, I shared with Tegan, I'm sharing with all of you, I'm the mother of 3, but helped to raise my 2 nephews. So we have 5 kids. They're no longer as young as Tegan's son. But we managed to raise 5 wonderful kids, with our youngest being 14 now. And so, you know, Tegan just asked, how do you do it all? And the first response is, you do the best that you can when you can. And you have to be honest and authentic to yourself, and know that not everything's going to be perfect. So if you're looking for perfection, you've already lost the battle.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, right, each and every day, just go into what you're doing, being fully present, respectful of other people's time, and then do the best that you can to have a lasting positive impact on each and every interaction that you have throughout the day. And if you're able to do that successfully, you can sort of leave, when I say that day, at the end of the day, you can breathe and feel good about where and how you invested your time. And so, Tegan, again, I just feel it's a blessing to have, you know, you in my life. And you know, you asked the question about values. I think one of my authentic values that I try to live by each and every day is just expressing gratitude and mindfulness. As the audience might imagine, going through COVID with, at the time, 4 college students in school, and watching them navigate very differently, but most of them struggled. I actually was in Miami a few weeks ago because my son was having chest pains at 20 years old. So of course, it's about, I got on a plane, explained to my team and my leaders at Allstate that I got to go and check on my son. I got to see him face to face and ask them for help. So that's the second value that I live by every day, knowing that I cannot do it alone. Asking for help early and often helps you to have, I think, peace as you go throughout the day. And so I got here, and the notes and the text messages and the calls of people asking, well, how can I help? What can I do? How's your son? It again just made me so appreciative of the support system that I have. But again, we have to ask for help.
Yep.
Otherwise, people won't know that we need it. Now, I will also, and then I'm going to stop this stream of consciousness. I will also say that reflecting on my experience, right, in juggling the 5 kids, having a meaty role, and wanting to ensure that, you know, my husband and my kids were okay during this, not just COVID period, but you think about all the racial unrest that happened following the murder of George Floyd. I mean, I have 3 African-American young men, right, and a husband, you know, that still process that. I actually paused, became very introspective, reflected on my experience, and then I started to think about the people around me, the people on my teams, the people that lost parents during COVID. We had 2 teammates pass away unexpectedly, one due to COVID, right? And so my team has actually been in mourning as well. And, you know, each and every day, I remind all of our leaders, we have huddles, to practice mindfulness and empathy for just the human condition. And I believe that when we treat people with love and kindness, again, at home and at work, it actually fosters just a very caring environment that people want to be connected, right? Not just to the
Yep.
work, but to each other. So
Absolutely.
those are just a few of my beliefs and my values, Tegan. And quite honestly, it's the only way I can make it through the day.
I love those. And I have heard so much about your infamous huddles and how real you keep them in them, not only from but also from other members of your team, and other people throughout Allstate who just like when I posted it that you were going to be on, I was like flooded with messages. Oh my gosh, Cheryl, she's amazing, and like, how have you been, and so many different things, and so you touch people outside of your unit, which is, I mean, it's global, and you probably lead hundreds, if not thousands, of people through a source of, a chain of command, but also your approach radiates not only throughout your organization, but throughout your community. I remember, gosh, years ago, Leon brought home this resume and he was like, hey, somebody at Cheryl's church needs help with their resume. Can you help? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And there's so many different aspects of life. And, for those of you tuning in, whether you are spiritual or not, we all have values. And when we're doing something that goes against our values, it feels gross. And we lose touch with ourselves. And it's a very difficult way to live. And so if you are just tuning in now, definitely catch the replay, because Cheryl just gave 3 amazing tips on how to live within your values. I love that you say ask for help, because that is something that oftentimes people don't do. Not only,
especially, Tegan, not to cut you off,
no,
especially not women.
Yes. It like, I would have never been having this conversation if I wanted to ask you to have the conversation. And was it awkward? Yeah, a little bit. But then I'm like, no, because it's calling to me. I know that she is the right person, that she will help touch so many people's lives through in my network that wouldn't otherwise have access to her. So I'm going to do it anyways. And you mentioned asking for help. One of those things, the reason why you had that community of people who was able to ask for help is because you built those relationships with those people to love you and like you enough to want to support you during a hard time. And that speaks to your values. So this leads me to my next question, kind of. When women, men, whoever, it doesn't matter gender, are looking for mentorship within their existing organization. Maybe they love their company, but aren't figuring out how to move up the ladder. There's a couple different things. There's sponsorships and there's mentorships. So could you share a little bit about the mentors that you've had and some of the wisdom that you think is important to impart upon those of you who you touch now?
Yeah, it's a great question. Because as I was applying for this doctoral program, it caused me to just pause and reflect on the why. Why did I want to do it? And I went back to think about all the great teachers that I've had in my life, starting with, and I'm not going to tear up this morning, but every time I think about this, my 5th grade teacher, I'm from Chicago, so lived in the ghettos of the South Side of Chicago.
South Side?
South Side. My 5th grade teacher, her name was Juanita Mitchum. And on our very last day of school, if any of you find my mother will tell you this is the truth. I literally grabbed Miss Mitchum, because we were changing schools to go to 6th through 8th grade. I grabbed her ankle, and I did not want to leave her because she was the best teacher ever. And so I reflected on the impact that she had on my life, young, poor, Black child living on the South Side of Chicago. And she just inspired me to want to learn. Yeah. And so when I was thinking about her, I actually wrote this in my my admissions essay. And I went to Google to try to find where she was. I wanted to see, touch, feel Miss Juanita Mitchum, and unfortunately she had passed away. So I share that story to say that we all have mentors, but how often first do we keep in touch with them, right? So I will go to my grave feeling sorry that I never got to say thank you to her and, make her proud of what she helped me to become. So that's just a story that I always share because it inspires me to want to help others learn and grow, right? Because I think teachers do that.
Absolutely.
As it relates to mentors, what's been interesting as I've gone up the ladder in my career is that there are some people that believe that leaders are out of reach.
Yeah.
Right. And people won't reach out. And so if there are leaders on the phone, I want you to be aware of that and make sure that you're making yourselves accessible, not only for people in your organizations, but anywhere, you come in contact with people. Because again, you may never understand the impact that you can have on a complete stranger. That's number one. Number two, Tegan, you asked the question about my past mentors. My first job out of college was working for American Express Financial Advisors in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I had a mentor, her name, I always, again, if you read articles that I've been in, I always talk about her. Her name was Mrs. Betty Wilson. She was a graduate of my alma mater, Florida A&M. She was my sorority teacher. And Betty actually hired me to work for American Express Financial Advisors. The one thing that she taught me many things, but the one thing that left me with a lasting impression was to pay it forward. Now that I had been provided the opportunity to work and grow, it was my obligation to make that opportunity available to others. And I will say 32 years later, I continue to go back to Florida A&M to recruit students, to speak in the classroom, and to make sure that my husband, who's also a Florida A&M alumnus, our monies go there to provide opportunities for others that come behind us. Betty was African American, but there were so many white males and white females that also mentored me. So that's the third thing. We all need to remember that mentors come in very different shapes, sizes, colors, races, sexual orientations. And I've had mentors across that entire gamut. And I take away different things from each and every one of them. One of the mentors that I often speak about, and I don't have permission to use his name, so I won't, but he was a very senior ranking official at one of the companies that I worked for, and he was a direct report to the CEO. And literally, I was shaking in our first meeting because I had never met one-on-one. I was 20, maybe 24 years old. I had never met someone at that level in the organization. So I'm just shaking, and he takes my hand. He puts his hand on my hand. He said, "I am human too." He said, "Let me tell you a little bit about me to let you know how human I am." He said, "I'm married. I put my pants on the same way that you do." When he got serious, he said, "And I make mistakes." He shared that he was a recovering alcoholic, and that his alcoholism, almost cost him his family. And so to see, again, I never had someone of that stature be as authentic and, genuine with me. And so I think the key learning from that very senior man, who, again, I'm going to reach out to him and tell him how grateful I am for his honesty and his transparency, is that he taught me the importance of authenticity.
Yeah.
And being who we are, our whole selves, the good things, the bad things, and sharing those stories to give others courage to do the same. I don't know that I would have been as comfortable sharing with my team how I've had challenges navigating, this period, right? If I hadn't seen it role modeled for me. So I encourage people, share your vulnerabilities. It creates stronger, healthier relationships, and encourage others to do the same. Quite honestly, I think that is one of the key reasons many organizations and teams don't change as fast as they need to, or drive change in a sustainable way, it's because we stay in the safe zone.
Yep.
And we really don't uncover and unleash all of the areas of opportunity, so they get hidden and never fully covered.
I absolutely agree. It's really hard to go through change when the trust isn't there in any aspect of your life, because many of us come from a place of fear, scarcity, and that, well, what's going to happen if this change happens? And there's going to be reluctancy to it. But when there's trust within the team and there's transparency and some vulnerability, I mean, obviously, when you get to a certain level in leadership, there's certain things that you can't disclose until you can disclose it. However, individuals that have good relationships with their leaders are okay with that, and will believe that their best interests, will be looked out for, or they will be taken care of in the long run. And that's something that some organizations and some departments struggle with. And I see it every day with my clients coming to me. I thought that this was going to be, potentially a good opportunity for me, but the mentorship's not there, or the room for growth isn't there. And I can't help but ask, well, did you ask?
That's right.
And so mentorship is one thing. Our kids can mentor us, books can mentor us, people in and outside of our organizations and in community can mentor us, but you can only get sponsorship from one source, and that's internally. And so what would your tip be for an ambitious professional, maybe mid to senior level leader, who wants to get sponsorship to grow in their existing organization? Can you share anything on that?
Absolutely. So when I think about the difference between mentors and sponsors, I think about it in this way. Mentor are people that can coach, advise, give advice, provide direction. And Tegan, as you said, you can find them anywhere, right? You can find them in your church, at your gym. It can be a next door neighbor. Sponsors, on the other hand, have one thing that mentors don't. Sponsors have the ability to influence outcomes associated with you and your career. Yes. And so the first thing that you have to do is identify who has the power, right? Who can make things happen. And again, in some cases in our organization, it can be me, for not only people in my direct chain, my direct organization, but those folks that report to others that I know, where I have the ability to influence. Yep. And the key attribute that has to be present is that you as a person are adding value, both from an outcomes perspective and from a leadership behaviors perspective. Because, you have some people that believe, oh my God, I hit home runs on my goals every day, all day. I don't understand why I'm not growing. Well, you have to take a step back to pause to ask, how are you delivering those results? Are you leaving a wake and path of destruction, on your way to achieving your outcomes, not the collective successful outcomes of a team? And so I ask people, again, to become introspective, because you have to have the quality and characteristics of someone who someone would want to sponsor, right? Yep. And if you can, let's say that you don't have all those attributes. Let's say that you have been one to leave a path of destruction, but you've now become more self-aware, and you know that that's a learning opportunity or growth area for you. You can then reach out to someone, again, that has the ability to influence and say, hey, I've been reflecting. I know I have some opportunities for growth, and I would really welcome having you help me, because I see the way that you operate. I really want to mimic your leadership attributes and your style. So it's possible to go and ask for sponsorship, but you need to understand the perception that you've given off, or the perceptions that people have of you, based on how you have shown up within your organizations. And I would also say sponsorship can generally be earned if you're showing up in those strong ways. So you think about the HR calibration process. Think about who goes in that upper right box, right? As your high potential, high
Yep.
performers, right? It's the people both that have provided yield around value to the organization, and they are role models of leadership. So
Yes.
ask yourselves, am I a role model? And if not today, then what can you do first before asking for help to start improving on your own? And there are lots of, again, I don't want to talk about books and, tips, but there are lots of ways to do that. And again, I'm sure Tegan will be providing more people to help on the path to improved learning and development for all of you. So I encourage you to also stay tuned.
Yes, thank you. There's something about being a giver, and there's a difference between an individual contributor and a leader. And you hit the nail on the head that you have to be both. You have to be a strong individual contributor, but you also have to be a giver to those around you and be supportive and have those qualities that are going to make organizations be successful. And that's why if you're writing a resume or interviewing, you have to touch on both the quantify the value that you offer an organization, but also touch on the EQ aspect of what your values are as a leader, whether you're an informal leader or a formal leader, have certain titles. And this is exactly what they're looking for. And so, Cheryl, I want to be respectful of your time and of your visit. So I just want to close today by saying thank you so much. Leon is attending Harvard now and going after, the math side of his brain, not just the executive recruitment side of his talents. And I am in Northwestern's organizational leadership program. Neither one of us would have pursued Ivy League continued education if it wasn't for you saying, well, if I can do it, why can't you? And I mean, we had thought about it, yeah, but you just made it seem so easy. And that's the beautiful thing about great leaders is they make it seem easy and they don't put other people down. They just say, like, come on up with me. And so I am so grateful for you to making my husband a better man when you were one of his mentors, and so grateful to you for the peace that you offered me that day. It just flooded me. And it was so weird because, like, essentially you were a stranger, and it was just such a peaceful time. Like, yeah, you're right, it will get easier. Like, let me go after it now. Like, let's just get it. And these past couple of years have just been a roller coaster. And I think back, like, anybody who's willing to put their mind to it can do it, and I'm going to do it. And so that's the selfish side of this is I'm sincerely grateful for every way that you have touched my family. And I'm so grateful that you have been able to touch individuals in my network, because I already had a few people message me, DM me saying, like, I needed to hear this today because I've been crying myself to sleep for months, not being able to handle it all. Or I've never asked for help. Thank you for saying it was okay and bringing someone on in a power of authority to tell me it's okay. And so you've already touched so many people's lives in just these past 30 minutes. So I appreciate you. And thank you.
Tegan, anytime. Well, first of all, we could have this love fest all day, right? First, I am here to support you because I believe that as humans, right, we have, again, this obligation to help each other be successful, right?
Yes.
So I'm a phone call away, I'm a text message away, you know where I live, and we will get together before Christmas, I promise. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I'm hoping that everyone that's here live and that watches the recording will understand that in every single interaction that you have, in every awakened moment, you have the ability to impact people in positive ways or negative ways. You know, I was thinking about a video that I saw of a woman in a grocery store, and, you know, she had kids and she was fumbling through her purse to try to get her ATM card out to pay. And, you know, the people in back of the line were just getting real pissy, right?
Yep.
And it's like, come on, people, have a bit of empathy.
Yeah.
Offer to help. And again, I think it's in that loving spirit that we can just make life better for everybody. So again, I don't have a ton of time, but if there's any way I can personally help anybody on this call, look me up on LinkedIn, message me. It may take me a few days to get back, but I promise I will get back to you. And my only ask again is to pay it forward. If I reach out and help you, I then ask you to just make yourselves available to help others. That's my ask in this lifetime.
And on that note, I'm going to say good people know good people. And so good people, keep doing your thing.
Yes. Have a great day.